Hey friends, it's Zach again. Welcome back to our fourth installment of the Youth Ministry Roadmap. Today we're covering this phase of what it means to scale your ministry. So in every youth ministry, there are a number of significant shifts. Maybe the number of students or leaders increases, or you expand in some cool new way. And as a result, you have to reevaluate how you're doing in ministry. It happens all the times when things are healthy and growing. These shifts can happen at different levels, and it can occur at both like an individual program level or even as the ministry as a whole. So whether you're a youth minister of 14 students or hundreds, these shifts will happen. As an example, you might move to a bigger stage for your large group meetings. That's a shift that requires adjustment in personnel and how you interact with students while on stage. Another example, which we'll discuss more later, is maybe the student body increases and you need to expand how many adult leaders you need to have for your small groups. That's a shift that requires an expansion of scale for your ministry. You're still meeting in groups, but just more of them. So scale is not just for people at really big churches. Every one of us will go through different shifts and scale at our student ministry. Whenever the scale expands, the capacity is tested for both you as a leader and your ministry. You built something, you refined it, you developed it, and now you're getting the pressure because you're doing a good job and things are growing. So how ready are you and your ministry for an increase in students? Whether it's moving from 14 to 20, 20 to 50, 50 to 100, the numbers are relative because at every increment is testing the structural integrity of the building of your healthy ministry. There may be a season where your structural integrity is tested. You may get hit and not be ready for what's next, but that's okay. You get the chance to intentionally redefine or redevelop some things. As a youth minister for a number of years, I had an amazing summer where I felt like we moved from the development phase to the scale phase. But in January, after the summer, we were back in development. We grew. Things changed, but some of the things weren't as sturdy as I wanted them to be. I had to go back through and not just patch it up, but tear down some of those structural walls and re-innovate, restart, and revive. As we've discussed, we move in and out of different phases. You don't just get to one and you're done. You may fall back down to where you're needing to develop and then scale again. But also, things could continue to grow beyond what you're prepared for, and in that case, you will miss out on growth because you didn't build enough of that foundation. So think for a moment and ask yourself this question. What is the capacity of my student ministry right now? Maybe that's number of chairs or number of leaders. I think for a lot of people, when they say they want to grow, they don't even have a question answered about the capacity of their ministry presently. They want a big student ministry, but they have no idea what that means. The reality is a lot of times we want more, but we're not ready for more. We haven't built a system that's ready for the scale that we hope to expand to. I've heard it explained like this. How many people do you feel like you could personally and adequately disciple? If you're going to be in the business of solely making disciples, what's your number? Whatever it is, I hope it's less than 12 because Jesus had 12. A lot of times we speak to our students from stage and think that we're going to be discipling them. But knowing their names is not the same thing as discipling 60 kids. So let's say you were able to commit truly discipling and walking with 10 kids, a little less than Jesus. Then we're going to help those students grow and develop. As a full-time employee or youth minister on staff, your number is 10. Now let's say you've got a few adults that are volunteer leaders for you. And of course, these people aren't being paid on staff. They're going to give out of the abundance of their time. If we're being really honest with ourselves, most of our leaders are going to maybe have time for 2, 3, 4 students tops. That's not a lot of students being discipled. Eventually, a student will come in where leaders just no longer have the capacity to care for them like they do for others. Let that sink in, because oftentimes we want larger ministries, but we may not be caring for the students that we currently have. We have to be honest with ourselves. What is our capacity? Instead of just wanting more and wanting more and more, we need to start getting on our knees, asking God, help me build this. If you were going to give us more, help us be ready and faithful to what you want from us. Additionally, when you are starting to ask other folks to minister, you are trusting that they will do a great job. You're trusting that the curriculum and the training was sufficient. And I think for a lot of people, that kind of trust takes a lot of time. But when you can trust others, you can radically expand how many students that you reach and how other folks can begin to minister in places that you're not at, groups you're not in. Ministry has to happen in rooms that you're not in, and that's a high level of trust. And it's a high level of delegation, which means a couple of different things. One, you're going to have to shift to spend more time with leaders. You're going to have to actually like your leaders, meet with your leaders, reproach your leaders, and if they're not doing a job, correct your leaders. Continue to encourage them to see what a good job looks like. Training leaders takes time, which number two means you're going to spend less time with students. I think a lot of youth ministers don't like hearing that, but your desire to grow or your attempts to grow and seek to grow your ministry are going to find that some things come with spending less time with actual students and more time with the leaders that are discipling your students. I know that sounds weird because you're a youth minister, like some kind of middle manager in a pyramid scheme, but this is the way that we really grow and scale ministry. You're giving it away for others to do the discipling work. You have to help people around you understand that as you scale, your role looks different. Their roles look different. And as we build layers into our ministry, we need help. So early on, one of the few things you do is a few small groups. But then as you add more students, you bring in more leaders, and now there's going to be different expectations. Why are you still leading a small group? Your role has changed, and your leaders start to understand that that would be part of the plan. Now let's say you've grown a lot more, and you've got 20 different small group leaders going on. Now it's no longer just you and the small group leaders. Maybe all you can care for is 10. That was the number you told me in the beginning. So now your leaders aren't even getting cared for. You've got 20 leaders and you only can care for 10. So now you need another layer of folks that would care for your leaders. A leader for your leaders that report to you. It's like having a coach inside your ministry structure. It sounds like one more thing, but you're bringing on other people to help do healthy, successful ministry. You're creating opportunities for leadership. And so you're not only training your leaders to be great leaders now, you're now training people to be great leaders to lead your leaders in the future. Even if you're not there yet, you're starting to think about the ways in which we might be primed for this growth, for our desire for a greater capacity. So these coach leaders might be the best small group leaders you have, and they're going to teach others how to do what they did. Everybody wants to know because they're doing a great job, and so we put them in a place to teach others what they know. As we discussed in the previous video, hopefully you've stepped back enough from the process that you can identify the next wave that your ministry is going to ride. Who do you have on your team? Who do you need? Is there about to be a big influx of homeschool students, middle school students? You don't want to miss the thing by not having stuff tested so you can have your capacity structured in a way that it's ready to receive. Because you want every kid that shows up to plug into what you're doing. You're not trying to build the other stuff too late because you were thinking about what might be coming. Additionally, as you scale, it can be tough to be around the students less and less. But personally, I realized the best way I was able to care for these students was to really pour into and develop their leaders. We want to get to the point where we are delegating and bringing people into areas that we might never be considered for. I hear youth ministers all the time that talk about, oh, I'm just bad at administrative stuff and I hate turning in receipts. But there are probably great people out there that could help you with that. I promise you that there are people in your church right now who could not only help you lead and teach, but are gifted at finances, budgeting and administration, design, driving, leading. Often we're so busy with trying to be the experts of everything that we're expected to do that we're constantly learning instead of trying to ask for people that God has blessed our congregation with to be brought in to help. Keep in mind that we don't want to be controlling everything directly. If you're the bottleneck, that's not good leadership. The end of the roadmap, as we'll talk about in the next video, is not you standing on top of the mountain having everything you've ever wanted. It's you having left your ministry and everyone left behind doing a great job even when you're not there. The ultimate goal, little by little, is to give it all away. If you're hinged to the whole thing and it rises and falls with you, then you can begin to identify the places that your ministry can happen without you. And if it can't, find ways that you can fix it. One last important piece of advice I would give you is to find a mentor. I believe that everyone can grow naturally into new leadership capacity and we can learn what the next thing needs to look like as we go, but oftentimes we are unable to do so because we haven't been there yet. We get frustrated trying to reach for new levels and then we drop back down because we don't have the capacity ourselves to provide for all of them. Why does it happen? Because you continue to wrestle with the same structure questions and issues over and over again without realizing that there are some that have actual shifts in the way and done the things that you're trying to do. And we don't learn what those shifts would be until we're truly in it. But when we're walking with somebody who we trust, who knows more than we do and has been where we have gone, they're able to look at what we're doing and go, wait, this is how I can help. This is what you can do. Helps us address the problems before things go wrong. There's a reason that our metaphor for youth ministry progression is a roadmap. You keep advancing through phases only if you know what is next. For a lot of you watching, you might feel stuck in your ministry, and it's not because of lack of hustle. It's not because of lack of effort. It's not because you don't care. You work hard, you support and do things for your students. It's just that maybe you're stuck and don't necessarily know what the next thing is. I don't always know what the next thing is. That's why I always try to surround myself with good friends who have gone further than I have, so I can learn from them and follow in their footsteps, the paths and chart what they've mapped out. If you're really struggling to scale in your ministry, form a relationship with someone who has successfully gone through the scaling process. With that, I'll see you back for one more episode of the Youth Ministry Roadmap when we talk about what it means to truly have a successful youth ministry.